On September 9th of 2024, we were given the unfortunate news of the passing of James Earl Jones. In his life, he has been an inspiration for many generations, lending his talents to the field of acting. Some may know of him from movies such as The Greatest, Claudine, The Reading Room being a personal favorite of mine. Or perhaps you are familiar with his voice roles, such as Mufasa from the Disney animated movie Lion King. But I can almost guarantee that most of you know him for lending his voice to a certain Sith Lord. I'm sure you all know where this is going, so with that said, Agamemnon Contingency, Youngling Slayer, how far would you go if it meant saving the life of those you love? Would you betray those who once fought at your side, or perhaps cross a line of which you cannot take back? And what do you think would happen should all your efforts not only fail, but cause you to lose more than you originally expected? Events such as these resulted in the death of Anakin Skywalker and the birth of Darth Vader. A Sith Lord's abilities aren't as vast as what many of my other contingency targets have. But for what he lacks in quantity, he more makes up for the strength and quality of his abilities, having been trained by Jedi such as Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and later becoming the apprentice to Darth Sidious, or Palpatine as most in the universe know him as. The skills he'd obtained during his training allowed him to combat some of the best lightsaber duelists in the galaxy, be they Sith or Jedi, friend or foe. He'd more than showed himself more capable than most masters. But while the lightsaber is a powerful tool, and Darth Vader is capable of combating multiple Jedi at once, it is nowhere near his most powerful weapon. In this world lay a power that only a select few are capable of wielding. A life energy that binds all in the universe, known as the Force. More than a simple power, wielding the Force is on par with manipulating the energy of the universe. And the things one can do with the Force seems limited only to Force users' own strengths and abilities. One of the simplest application of the Force is the ability of moving objects. Pushing and pulling being one of the most used methods, usually a means of crowd control or pulling an object towards yourself. That said, even something such as this can be wildly powerful. For example, Darth Vader once forced a ship in mid-takeoff back down to the ground. I should mention that ships in this universe are capable of interplanetary travel, capable of leaving the atmosphere in a matter of seconds. Vader would later confront the pilot of that ship, an Inquisitor with a lightsaber of her own. During this battle, Vader would forego using his own saber, instead choosing to deflect her lightsaber with the Force alone. You know, as I research Vader's countless battles in the Star Wars canon, I can't help but notice his particular method of breaking people down. When it comes to a foe much weaker than himself, Vader will take the opportunity to show them just how weak they are, no doubt trying to break them spiritually before ending them. That said, finding anyone who could stand at equal or greater footing to this Sith Lord is very difficult, as when it comes to the Force, he has performed some incredible feats, capable of blocking multiple blaster fire with his bare hand. He'd also managed to destroy an AT-AT, a machine of upwards to 20 meters. Their armor is also resistant to blaster fire, and yet Vader disassembled it with little effort. He'd once even used it to shrug off a concentrated blast of Force energy. This attack done by a man known as Starkiller who'd managed to atomize several stormtrooper with that same attack. I should mention that Starkiller's Force power is strong enough to pull a Star Destroyer out of the sky, causing it to crash. And yet these are still not the peak of Vader's power. But to give you a good example, there is a dimension parallel to the physical realm, one that goes by the name of the Dark Dimension. Vader sought entry into this world. Through the use of the dark side of the Force, Vader forced open a door to that dimension. Vader would leave his body behind, allowing his spirit to enter this realm. In this state, Vader is at his most powerful. Combating Vader is difficult to say the least. Without the ability to use the Force, I cannot get near him without the risk of him casually snapping my neck. But for now, we'll focus on some other aspects to at the very least weaken him. The lightsaber can cut through many things, with very little armors capable of withstanding its strikes. But there exists a metal that can do much more than that. There exists a rare metal called cortosis, one which can absorb high levels of energy. Should a lightsaber make contact with this metal, it will be disabled for a short period of time. It is a rare metal, so making a suit out of it is not a realistic goal. However, something as simple as a short striking weapon should be enough. Next comes the suit Vader wears. After his near death against Obi-Wan, Vader was placed inside of a suit that would keep him alive. That said, this suit, designed by Palpatine, was also created with the intent of hindering Vader. Many things, such as the flashing lights, to the loud breathing apparatus, were intentional flaws to prevent Vader from becoming too powerful. It's almost as if he feared Vader turning on him someday. I floated around the idea of using an EMP to disable his suit, though I have not seen any proof that one would work. That said, Vader's suit has been shown to be vulnerable to hacking. Fortunately for me, I have a few experts on the subject. I have also considered using a method one of my alternate selves have tried. Placing Vader into what would be a perfect dream, one where he'd live the life he desired. I'd imagine one where his wife survived. However, Vader was once afflicted by something similar when attempting to bleed a kyber crystal. He'd managed to break out of it through sheer force of will. Speaking of which, I'm still working on how to counter his force powers. I've heard rumor that force sensitives are affected negatively when near a black hole. I believe it to be because it is the force's polar opposite. While the force represents the life of a universe, a black hole is a concept of complete nothingness. Somewhere not even the force could exist. That said, getting Vader to one is easier said than done, and creating an artificial black hole could prove catastrophic should anything go wrong. I've seen this comment in my prior contingencies a lot, and I usually try avoiding this when I can, but sometimes it's probably best to hand a threat off to someone far more capable. So in this case, should I find myself with no other option, I'm going to have to call in Superman.